Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a discussion video, and I want to start by asking you, what is your favorite Spyderco? Today, the video is going to focus on Spyderco knives. We're going to be all about Spyderco, and specifically we want to talk about the 10 best Spydercos out there. So I'd really like to see down in the comments what your favorite Spyderco is and why. Don't just give me a name, give me the thing that makes this the most awesome Spyderco of all. Because I'm going to try to do that with my list as I go through the top 10 Spydercos, and we're going to get started right away. So I'm going to just zoom out a little bit, and of course all of you recognize this as the Paramilitary II. A wonderful, wonderful knife, and the very first knife on the list for lots of good reasons. All right, this knife is a great combination of everything you look for in a folder. The ergonomics are great, the durability is great, the overall usefulness is great. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. You know, this knife just, you know, is kind of one of those Goldilocks knives where everything is really, really well done. There's not too much to complain about, especially on this one that has the nicest action that I have ever seen in a Para 2. So what is it about this knife that is so great? The ergonomics are great. The performance, the blade in the typical S30V or the S35VN like this one is a really nice shape to get lots of things done. And the other thing that I'm going to mention this about a few of these knives, is the number of sprint runs out there in the Para 2. So that right now, you can get this version, the S35VN, you can get the S30V, you can get the S110V. Shortly, we should have one in Maximet steel, which is pretty exciting. So there are a lot of great sprint runs in the Paramilitary 2, which means that you can have something that's a little unique or a little special, or maybe just slightly higher performance. Now, I will say this, if you're going that route, be careful about the steel that you choose. Some steels are going to be more well suited to EDC. If it's going to be like a user knife and not a collector, just check in on the steel that you're planning to get and make sure that it's going to really suit your needs. But lots of cool sprint runs available in the Paramilitary 2. And, you know, I don't think there would be any surprise here that in the top 10 Spydercos, this would absolutely be #1 on the list. Let's move on to number 2, and I have this knife as well, kind of. This is the Spyderco Mannix 2 XL, and really, the one that primarily takes this list, I'm gonna make this a broad category, okay? But number 2 on the list is the Mannix 2 in any configuration. Okay, so I'm going to be kind of generous here. So there's a lightweight configuration, there's a G10 configuration, there's this one, which is the XL version, and then in addition to that, there are sprint runs in the G10, there are special editions in the G10, and there are sprint runs in the lightweight. So there are tons of options out there when it comes to the Mannix 2, and all of them are pretty darn good. And in fact, one of the reasons this is number 2 on the list is because there's a Mannix 2 for just about everybody, right? There are tons and tons of different options available, so that whichever one speaks to you the most, and of course for me it's definitely the larger one. And I actually like the ergonomics on this guy just a little better than the standard size, even though I've got to give a lot of credit to the standard size Mannix. It's great as well. So number 2, because of its size, because of the various configurations available, and again, because of the sprint runs, blade shape, all of those things are really well done. So number 2 is going to be the Mannix 2. Next on the list, number 3 is a knife I don't have. So let's just close this. What I'm going to do is leave these guys on screen just to give you something to look at. All right. We're going to talk about a bunch of different models, and I am going to throw some pictures in here, and I'm going to do my best. I've done this, I've been trying to do this lately, is stick to pictures that are from my own review, so that, you know, kind of to remind you that this is a knife I'm fairly familiar with. So number 3 on the list is the Endura, and I'm going to throw the Delica in there as well. So the Endura Delica, depending on what kind of size you want. Now, these are really nice medium-duty EDC knives. I would not call either one of them, the Endura or the Delica, a heavyweight knife. The lock, I've seen the locks fail in some situations that I wouldn't call hard use. And so what I would say about these is these are light-duty EDC knives. They're not what I would consider heavy-duty. I'm sure there'll be some of you who want to argue with me in the comments, and that's great. But they are fairly affordable. They are very ergonomic. The blade shapes are quite useful. You know, for me, I lean toward the Endura because I find more utility from a longer blade than I do from a shorter one. But in addition to all of those things, there are also tons of sprint runs available. There are G10 versions of both available. And so again, you can get one that's really kind of special to you. Or, you know, if that turns out to be your favorite knife that's ever existed, you could go ahead and collect a whole bunch of different ones, which would, of course, be a lot of fun as well. All right, so number 3, the Endura Delica. Number 4 is the Dragonfly. Spyderco Dragonfly, great knife. And the reason I like this knife, you guys know I'm not a fan of small knives, but this is a small knife that's way more hand-filling than a lot of small knives that I've tried. And it's fairly useful. And to me, here's the thing. If you're gonna go under 3.5 inches, you might as well go for a Dragonfly, because then, you know, you're getting most of the utility that you could want in a super small, super comfortable package that's gonna do, you know, almost anything that a short blade can do, right? But that nice small package is gonna make it very convenient. So Dragonfly, great knife. And once again, you know, I feel like a broken record here, but once again, there are a ton of awesome sprint runs. And I had the Nishinjin sprint run, which was so awesome. That was an absolutely gorgeous knife. Number 5, we're halfway there, is the Spyderco Domino. Again, a really nicely designed knife. And one of the things that's consistent here, guys, is every one of these, you get it in hand and it feels like it's meant to be in your hand. And I've got it, you know, whatever else you say about Spyderco, you may hate them more than any other company, but they know handle ergonomics. They do a great job consistently of handle ergonomics. And here's another one, the Domino, where it's really well done. By the way, this is going to be the only titanium frame lock that makes the list. It's a nice looking knife. The ergos are great. The blade is just a little bit small. You know, if I could, you know, make one wish from the Spyderco Genie, it would be for a larger version of the Domino. Not much larger though, just a teeny bit. Again, there are some cool versions of this. Now, they're not sprint runs, but in addition to the original carbon fiber that came out, that's sort of the pattern carbon fiber, there's a blue weave carbon fiber, there's a red weave carbon fiber, there's a blue G10 from, all of a sudden I can't think of the right name. Please someone comment down below, or I'll think of it before I'm done, but there is a blue Domino in 204P that's really nice. So Spyderco Domino, again, great knife, absolutely love it. Eric Glesser nailed the design on that one. Number 6, the Yojimbo II. Spyderco Yojimbo II. This is the folding version designed by Michael Janich. Now this guy is a fighting knife by design, but in reality, it's a wonderful EDC. I've carried out of EDC to Yojimbo a lot. I mean, a lot. And I really like it. I love that hollow grind. The one limitation it does have is because of the hollow grind on it, the tip is super fine. So, you know, if you want to get a sliver out, it's awesome. But man, if you pry on that even the slightest bit, you're going to break it. So you do have to, you know, you got to be a little bit careful with that tip. But otherwise, amazing knife. Great action. Of course, it's got the compression lock, so it's super fun to play with. And the really cool thing about the Yojimbo II is that it looks really different. You know, if you bring that out in public, and I remember lots of people saying, "What is that?" And I would show them the knife and they'd be like, "That is the weirdest looking folding knife I've ever seen." And it is very weird looking, which is kind of, you know, that's kind of enjoyable for me, but it's also extremely useful. So you get this knife that looks really different and really interesting, but you don't have to sacrifice any utility. Sorry about that, guys. I kicked the table. It wasn't an earthquake. Number 7 is the Sage series. Now, guys, I've got to tell you, I'm not a fan of the Sage series. I find them just a little bit too small, and I always feel like, you know, if I was going to buy a Sage, why not just go up to the Mannix? It's, you know, a lot of similar things about it, only a size that to me I feel like is much more useful. So the cool thing about this line though is they're knives that are meant to honor different makers, different designers, and so all of the Sage knives have different locks, okay? And that is really neat. So you get, you know, all kinds of different versions. Of course, the Sage 2 is very popular because it's a titanium frame lock. Recently, the Sage 5 with the compression lock has been really well received. There are a ton of good ones out there. For me, again, they're too small, but I know lots of you guys love them. In fact, the reason I know that is because honestly, of all the knives that I have, and I get a lot of requests for review, you know, please review this knife, please review that knife. And I do my best, but more than any other, I get reviews for the Sage. So if someone watching this has a Sage and would send it to me for review, that would be very appreciated. But great knife for everybody else. I'm not a fan. Number 8 is the UK PK. And I wanted to put this one on the list because I think it's important to include that option that's a little more friendly to people all around the world. This is one of the nicer slip joints out there, and it's a cool knife because I think it offers a lot of the properties and a lot of the things we look for in a modern folder, but in a slip joint that's going to be easy to carry, or more easy to carry, in a number of places around the world where locking blades and blades over 3 inches and a number of other restrictions exist. And the cool thing is you can even get this knife in S110V. And there are some other sprints out there, I know, but S110V is such a great steel that I felt like that was the one I wanted. And I don't think that's a sprint. I think that's just a variant. All right, number 8, the UK PK. Number 9, the Spyderco Stretch 2. Again, this is a knife that looks odd, okay? I'll be the first to admit this knife, when you look at it, is kind of ugly. But as soon as you get it in your hand, you're like, wow, I totally understand why everything is happening the way that it's happening. It's just so comfortable in hand. It just feels like it's meant to be there. And this is an older, older design, or kind of plays on some of Spyderco's older designs. And so if you want that sort of that history, that, you know, where you can, you know, kind of reach back and be reminiscent of the Worker and other old Spydercos, the Stretch is great for that as well. Great ergos, good blade shape. Again, now this is the same issue I have with the Enduras and Delicas. I'm not a big BG10 guy, okay? I'm just not a fan of it. It's fine, it's just not my favorite steel, but there are tons of sprint runs. The one I had, the Stretch that I had, was the Super Blue, Agomi Super Blue steel. Such an awesome steel, such a cool knife. So tons of sprint runs out there, great knife, generally fairly affordable, so highly recommend the Spyderco Stretch. And finally, number 10. Now there's no sprint runs of this, which is a little disappointing, but this is the Gail Bradley 2. By the way, notice how many 2s are in this top 10. Excellent all-around EDC knife. In fact, one of the best all-around EDC knives that I can think of. The blade shape is great, the ergonomics are great, the design is great, the toughness, like it's just, it nails everything. It really does a great job of getting things really, really right. And hopefully there will be some sprint runs in it. But I've got to say, you know, find there's a video out there, and maybe I forgot it like I did last time I mentioned this. Gail Bradley talks about sort of the design development of the Gail Bradley 2, and it's really neat kind of hearing his thoughts and then holding the knife, and it really connects. So go look up that interview, and I think it's worth watching. Please someone comment down below with the video I'm thinking of. If you could help me out with that, I would really appreciate it. Now finally, some honorable mentions. Now I need to apologize, guys, here, because I know there are crazy hardcore Spyderco fans out there. Real Bush Monkey, if you're watching this, you know, your Spyderco collection puts most people's total collection to shame. And so I know there'll be some opinions here, and I'd love to hear them down below. So for honorable mention, I have the Native series. You guys know why this is an honorable mention and not in the top 10. It's too small for me, and I feel like in the similar size, if you wanted a knife of that size, go with one of the Sage knives, because you're getting a lot more cutting edge for a knife that's basically the same size. But it is a nice knife. I have had one. They are very comfortable and very useful. And again, there's lots of sprint runs and lots of variants available. The Sleish Bowie, Martin Sleish, and I'm probably not saying that right, but again, a great knife, well loved. And this is like the Sebenza for Spyderco fans, okay? If you really like the Sebenza and you want something similar, you want a nice titanium frame lock, this is a great option. Again, for me, I haven't had one yet, but maybe someday I'll get one in hand and be able to check it out. And finally, I want to include the Magnitude, because this is a knife that I don't think got enough credit. It is a really nice looking knife. I think the design is actually well done, and the quality of it is impeccable. Okay, guys, it really is. Now, I know the price is up there, and I know the S30V is kind of a fail. I agree with you on those points. Outside of that, though, I don't think that knife gets enough love. So the Spyderco Magnitude is going to get an honorable mention, as is this Spyderco Military. For a long time, and the thing that puts me off the Military is the only tip down carry option. I really dislike that. And here's how I want to finish this video off. I wish, you know, again, I need, you know, if Sal Glesser would give me a call and say, you know, look, I'm looking for some advice on new models, I would love a Military 2 that has a compression lock and has the option for tip up carry. That would be like a dream come true. Military gets honorable mention as well, and it really is a great knife, just not in the top 10 because I think the design is kind of showing its age. And that's where the last point that I want to make here before we're done, guys. A lot of these models that I'm talking about have been around for a long time. And maybe that's the nature of a top 10 because you don't want to include new stuff that hasn't proven itself yet. But I wonder if this hints at maybe the need for some fresh blood at Spyderco or for some fresh thinking, because they've got these, you know, amazing models that are just home runs, but I haven't seen one lately that has been as good as a number of the ones that we've mentioned here in this video. And maybe you know about some and you want to disagree with me, I'd be happy to hear it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.